Hello. Hello, I'm Lee Bernick, and I am the Dean of the Greenspun College of Urban Affairs, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Urban Report. In this edition, we're going to talk to three new employees at the university, actually part of our faculty and staff in the Greenspun College of Urban Affairs. The university hired about 70 faculty members and additional staff members, and we have three today that we want to introduce to you that are doing really interesting things for the college. And so our first guest is Emily Troszczynski, and we want to welcome you here.
Thank you.
To Las Vegas and to the college and to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And so Emily, you come from, you were at Drake last year.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the criminal justice program.
Law, Politics, and Society.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you are, you went to UC
Irvine.
Mm-hmm. In
Criminology, Law, and Society.
Criminology, Law, and Society. But you are here now. The question, I guess, I want to talk to you a little bit about what you teach and a little bit about your research and see where we go from there.
Okay.
You're teaching, I think, this semester. Tell me what you're teaching this semester. I think it's Introduction to Law?
Introduction to Criminal
Justice. And then also a woman...
That's next semester.
Next semester.
Next semester will be Women in the Criminal Justice System. This semester I'm teaching Introduction to Criminal Justice at the undergraduate level, and then the pro seminar in criminal justice for the graduate students.
For the graduate students. So we can talk about the graduate students, but let's focus in on the undergraduates first. The Introduction to Criminal Justice. It's a basic course all our students take. We have about 800 majors. You're going to be teaching a lot of students in this thing. What's the basic takeaway? If someone at the end of the semester, what would you like them to say? Here are the 2 or 3 key points about criminal justice that you would like them to be able to take away from your class.
Right. When I teach a criminal justice class, I usually teach about theories of lawmaking and then theories of law breaking. So there's some socio-legal studies and there's also some criminology, and then how it's applied currently within the criminal justice system. And key takeaway points that I want all of my students to get at. I'm a critical criminologist, so I focus a lot on class inequality, racial and ethnic inequality, and then gender and sex inequality. So at the end of my class, hopefully all of my students will be able to say, I understand lawmaking and the administration of justice. I understand these different theories of law breaking and how they can be applied differently to different groups of people, and then the everyday realities of that and how that's handled within the criminal justice system and how different groups are affected differently by policy. Okay,
so when you say different groups, give me an example that you would use in your classroom about this in terms of the lawmaking and then maybe the law breaking.
Different theories of lawmaking comes from the socio-legal studies, so I talk a lot about law and politics and that perspective, and then I also talk about class and Marxist perspectives. And then when I talk about law breaking, it's different theories of how we kind of view deviance and social control, and then what to do with those that are deviant, whether that be biological perspectives, psychological perspectives, or class and sociological perspectives, which is what I primarily focus on. And so then at the end of it, hopefully they're able to look at different criminal justice policies currently and say, okay, this looks at the face of it, if you're looking at the law, it looks like a good law. But how is it actually working out every day in reality? And is it doing what that original legislative intent, is that actually happening on the ground level? Okay.
And one of those areas where I think I'm going to transition over to your research, where this, I think your research, excuse me, is looking at electronic surveillance. And so there's a certain intent about this and then the reality of this.
Yes.
So what's the intent of electronic surveillance and what's the reality of this?
Yeah, so part of my research studied the history of electronic monitoring and surveillance system within the criminal justice system. And the original intent of early electronic monitoring schemes was for home confinement of juvenile offenders, low-level juvenile offenders, making sure they stay out of the system. We don't want them to go to prison. We want to keep them at home. We want to rehabilitate them and kind of watch them and keep an eye on them. That was the original intent of electronic monitoring in the 80s. And since then, it has now turned into GPS units on the highest, most dangerous offenders, which are sex offenders. So now electronic monitoring or surveillance schemes within the criminal justice system are used for the most dangerous classes of people after they're already out of the prison system for life in some states, for the rest of their life on parole, to track them, monitor them.
And does it work?
It's expensive. It's extremely expensive. 43 states now use surveillance, GPS surveillance on their sex offender parolees. From interviews that I've done with sex offender parolees, it's hard for them to successfully reintegrate back into society. So if you have politicians and legislators and a law that says this is good for society, we're going to keep kids safe and we're going to keep communities healthy and safe, is it actually doing that? No. If you look at California, more and more sex offender parolees are homeless. They can't get a job. They can't see their family members. Is that healthy for a community? These are kind of the questions that I like to look at.
Okay. So, and this is one of those kinds of things where we could say what you're doing in your research could also be brought back into the classroom.
Yes. So that's
Right.
a good example of this law-breaking, lawmaking, and does it really work?
Right. And so and I wanted to bring that into because I think sometimes people think that when we do research, we don't actually then bring it back into the classroom. But
Right.
this is a good example where you could do something like that.
Yeah.
Right. I only have a few more seconds, and so let me say that at another time we'll have you back because I want to talk to you about your other course that you're going to teach in the springtime. That's the Women in Crime. Is that
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And we want to talk about that.
Okay.
So I want to thank you very much
Thank you.
for coming in for today for our first guest, and I think we'll take a short break right now. Thank you.
For others, it may have just been a summer job. But for me, it was training. Now I'm an Air Force pararescueman, and my job is to save lives. Make the right choices today and be ready for the challenges tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
Think you found every hazard out here today? Think again. The spot you missed could be a killer. That spot on your skin could be skin cancer. Fact is, if you're a man over 50, you're in a group most likely to develop skin cancer, including melanoma, the kind that kills one person every hour. 1 in 5 Americans is likely to develop a form of skin cancer during their lifetime. That's why your best shot is to check for a spot. It's easy. Follow through and check your skin. It could be the save of a lifetime. Go to spotskincancer.org to find out how. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
Winston, just one more inning, Grandma.
Ever notice how many things today kids can do without actually moving? A whole lot of things their parents used to do the hard way. So many kids' activities today seem to leave out the activity part, which makes exercise even more important for children. In fact, new research tells us the best time to enhance bone development is during childhood and adolescence. And just getting children to walk an extra 35 minutes a day could spare them the pain of thinning bones later in life. Healthy bones come from healthy habits. Encourage your kids to get up, get out, and get moving.
Hello. Hey, Grandma, how about another grape soda?
A public service message on building strong bones for kids from the Pediatric Orthopedic Society of North America and the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
I want to welcome you back to this edition of the Urban Report, and our next guest is a faculty member in the School of Environmental and Public Affairs, Jaewon Lim. Welcome to the Urban Report.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
It's my pleasure.
You are a demographer,
Yes.
and I'm going to get to that in a minute. You're coming here from Arizona, is that right? You were at the University of Arizona?
Yes.
And you were there. What were you doing at the University of Arizona?
I worked as a regional economist at the University of Arizona. There's an institution called the Office of Economic Development. Also served as affiliate faculty member in the School of Geography and Development. So mainly focused on how we can reshape the regional economic structure for sustainable regional economic development by recruiting more and more skilled workforce into the region.
Okay, so which we're going to talk about a little bit in a short while, but what you were focused on then was on economic development and,
Yes.
and running numbers about how all this works.
That's right.
And understanding the patterns of the workforce and what we want. In this case, you were doing it down in Tucson at the University of Arizona.
Yeah.
Before going to the University of Arizona, though, you got your degree in urban planning, right, at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign.
That's where I went to school.
Right, and you got your PhD in urban planning.
Yes, PhD is in regional planning. They differentiate a little bit, but urban
Differentiate a little bit between regional and urban planning.
Yes.
Okay, so but you've come here. You're going to do. You're here as a demographer. You're going to be working with our environmental studies program,
Yes.
teaching a
GIS course.
GIS course. And GIS, just for a short, what's a GIS course?
Yeah, GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. For many different disciplines, spatial scale and geography is an important factor to understand in terms of the human interaction with the environment. So I'm going to teach the GIS course for environmental decision making, environmental management.
Okay, so what you're going to be able to do is help students learn how to use information and data
Yes.
about a region and do it in a way, in a geographical, and maps and other kinds of charts, right, that will help us understand
Yes.
and enable us to make better decisions. So we're helping to teach our students how to do those things. Now your research, though, focuses in on the economic development, and I know that when you came here for an interview, you presented a series of charts and information. You gave a nice lecture about the impact of, or how do we understand what's happening to Las Vegas in this recession and everything. And one of the things that you pointed out, you had a chart that said something about how the construction industry is the real culprit, if you will. Is that right?
Yeah. Understanding the regional economic structure is a key to reshape or to understand what is the next step for the regional economic development policy. And I think that we have two highly specialized sectors. One is leisure and hospitality, and of course, the other one is construction. The total share of the jobs of construction sector here in Las Vegas metropolitan area is about 10%. And it was a key driver for our regional economic development, at least until 2006. But since 2006 until 2010, only for a 4-year period, we lost 64,000 construction jobs. That's equivalent to 50% of the total job loss. Before 2006 period, it was a job creation driver, but with this decreasing jobs from the construction sector, we're losing this population to the other metropolitan areas because those unemployed from the construction sector and marginally employed, they're seeking for another more secure and stable job opportunities in other metropolitan areas as well.
So while we can talk about jobs and what's happened in Las Vegas and about the economy, again, that 10% of our workforce was in construction. Right. That's above the national average.
That's above the national average. It's highly specialized.
It was a highly specialized. So part of our problem is not only do we have the hospitality as a special, but the real culprit in some ways was the fact that we were very specialized in construction.
Yes.
And when that turned around and went down, we lost all these jobs. More than half the jobs were lost.
Yeah.
Okay. And then another interesting thing is that where people were moving from to Las Vegas, and then where people were moving from Las Vegas to other parts of the country. Can you talk about that?
Yeah,
in
interesting.
A couple minutes.
Sure.
We only have a couple.
Yeah, interesting fact is like traditionally those out migrants from Las Vegas metropolitan area, about 50 to 55% goes to the other largest metropolitan areas with a population over 500,000. But in one single year in 2010, close to 90% of those out migrants chose those largest metropolitan area. In other words, those who can easily find a similar type of job, especially in the construction sector, they're forced out of this dismal construction sector in Las Vegas metropolitan area, looking for another job opportunity in other metropolitan areas. And that number skyrocketed between 2009 and 2010. And I think, the fact that we are losing our share from the construction sector in national average, that's forcing out those construction workers out of our region.
Okay, so construction workers are some of the people who were leaving,
Yeah.
and they're going to other metropolitan areas in the country. Are there any particular ones? Are they going just to California? Are they going to the Midwest? Or
Yeah, with the economic downturns like this, especially the unskilled workers, they have a tendency to move toward the kind of closed regions. So the other partners that I could find from my analysis was Denver, Colorado, and other metropolitan areas in Texas, which is relatively better in terms of the regional economic status currently, and other big partners like Los Angeles. And LA is not a very good case, but I think some other local partners like Salt Lake City, but Colorado, Denver, Colorado, and Dallas and Houston. Those are the main
okay.
Partners.
So you try to study where people are coming from and where they're going.
Yeah.
And we need to end this. We need to close this section. I find it totally fascinating because, and this is an important part for us, how the university can help the community understand jobs and job creation. And I want to thank you for coming on, and I want to wish you well in your first year here at the university and towards moving towards tenure. And I want to thank you again for appearing on the show. And I think it's time for a short break. And again, thank you, Jaewon.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
What you guys say?
If you could see anything in the world, what would it be?
I'd love to see Paris.
I like to see cupcakes falling from the sky.
My daughter, married and happy.
I want to see things the way I used to.
Chances are, someone you love may one day be affected by macular degeneration or glaucoma. Log on to seeabettertomorrow.org or call 1-800-437-2423 to learn about glaucoma and macular degeneration. Call 1-800-437-2423 or log on to seeabettertomorrow.org.
I just want to see more of the things I love.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That moment?
It was a moment that changed my life. I'd been training with my team for months, and now we had been called up for the first time. The real deal. Wildfires were getting dangerously close to homes. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
At what age is the color that your skin was meant to be no longer beautiful? Every year, millions of young women try to change the skin they were born with and say they die for darker skin. Sadly, some actually do. Melanoma is the second most common cancer in teens and young adults, and one person dies from melanoma every hour. Change your thinking, not your skin. Stop tanning. Learn more at spotskincancer.org. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
Something's not right.
My first symptoms were
constant tingling in my toes.
My legs, sometimes I'll go numb.
I had double vision. They said you have multiple sclerosis.
Well, the beginning is the hardest time.
Kind of had to get a grasp on reality.
I had to adapt and change very rapidly.
I had to learn how to drive with my hands. Yeah, that was interesting.
I was a dancer. I don't see walking the way I walk any different than doing a dance. It just looks different. It's a different dance.
You see me have an off day, it doesn't take away from who I am.
A symptom may cause you not to be able to do that anymore. And at one point, I wasn't able to do any of those.
But I would exercise every day.
Since I've been cycling, it's definitely helped my walking.
To make a lot of changes in my life and just adapt to it.
I'm going to acknowledge its presence. I'm not going to discount it. But at the same time, I'm going to try my best to not let it stop me.
It's a fantastic opportunity to be working together with a common goal of curing MS, and sharing is the key.
again, I want to welcome you back to the third segment of this edition of the Urban Report. And we have another staff member, faculty, administrative faculty member of the university and the college, Bob Thompson. Welcome to the Urban Report. Welcome to the college. This is your first day.
Yes, it is.
It's your very first day, and we throw you right into the assignment of coming on to the show. Bob, you were at, before coming here, you were at ESPN, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about what you did at ESPN.
Oh, it was great. I got to do a little bit of everything in terms of post-production, animation, editing, creating graphics and long form, short form, teases, all aspects of everything ESPN has to put on the air, you know.
So how did you get to ESPN?
Oh, well, I worked about 5 years on cruise ships as running TV station, master control, editing, shooting, and that got me a job doing commercial work with Charter in the Great Lakes region, and from there ESPN called and kind of went.
Okay,
yeah.
And so when we think of ESPN, we think of all these the different shows and the people there.
Mm-hmm.
And did you meet these people? I mean, were you working with them?
Yes, it's really a unique environment. You meet the anchors, you meet the sports stars, you meet everyone basically involved. And my role was post-production, the editing. So a lot of these features or short forms, they'd be out shot actually where the events were, and they'd come to me, and I'd put together the actual finished product, and that would include animation or color correction, audio work.
So I want to talk about two parts of this, but there has been this kind of commercial. I don't know if you remember seeing this. Again, this tells you how much I sort of watch ESPN. But there was this one where one of the sports stars is sitting with an editor trying to find the highlights, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Yes, I know. I think it was Dwayne Wade, trying to pick his own highlights and saying, no, a little more over the left.
Right.
Yeah.
That never happened.
No, and they were actually in a switching room. They actually weren't really editing. So
they weren't really editing.
Yeah, but it was a good look. It was very funny.
But who helps then, though? I mean, they bring in all this stuff. I mean, how much of in terms of editing, is the freedom for you to edit these shows?
It's pretty good. ESPN is so wide, and what they have producers just for X Games, producers just for NFL, MLB, and each have their own assignments. And when they get them, they have to eventually come to me or the creative service department, and we have to put it together. So that's a lot of meetings, a lot of sitting talking about, okay, what's going to happen, how do we want to present this, and each project has to have a kind of a direction. You know, is this a sad story, or is it about kind of an uplifting? And you have to find that direction. And between everyone, you usually come to terms with what can be.
So the reason I've been asking about it, one is that people know about ESPN, but now you're coming out here, and we've asked you to be involved in our UNLV TV production, and we're going to be doing sports and other things. And this is going to be a different venue in a sense that are much smaller than, and I just wanted to get a sense of how much independence you had there, and because you're going to have a lot of independence.
Yeah. Well, I've been pretty fortunate in my career. I could, on ships especially, I could do whatever I wanted, and I enjoyed doing that. And then at Charter, same thing. I was kind of isolated from all the producers, so when they came to me, I got to kind of create what I wanted. And I've always enjoyed animation and editing, the whole post-production process. So for me, it's an enjoyment. I enjoy doing it.
So you've come out here. You're from the West, right?
Boise. I grew up in Idaho.
You grew up in Idaho, in Boise. Is that right?
Yes, in Boise.
And you went to. We won't hold this against you. You went to Boise State, right?
Yes.
And you went there as an undergraduate. And in fact, you're
working on my master's.
Your master's in what?
Educational technology.
Educational technology. So not only do you work with this, but you're trying to understand it and see how we can advance and move along with educational technology, and how we can use technology for educational experience.
Yeah, especially in this field, it's changed so much in the last 10 years. And I think all industries have changed, but I think more so in post-production.
In post-production. So what part of post-production do you like the best? I mean, if you had to hang your hat on one part, what's the...
Well, I really enjoy the animation part. I like Flash, I like 3D animation, the whole lens flares, that kind of thing. But I understand that they're all connected. You know, you have to edit something in order to put that graphic. You have to, does this edit need a giant flaming ball going through it? You know, so you have to understand the whole process, I think. But
Okay. So in the near future, when we watch events, we're going to see more animation from...
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully,
yeah,
is that it?
Yes.
And no cartoons, though,
No,
right?
of course not.
No cartoons. But you could do cartoons.
Yes, maybe Boise State logo flying through.
Well, maybe if the Rebel,
Yes.
Hey Reb was chasing the,
yes,
the
there we
logo
go.
out of
That's
there,
right.
you know. So we look forward to seeing the kinds of things that you're going to work. And although it's not always obvious, we're really excited about having you here at UNLV TV and enhancing the different kinds of activities and helping our students. We hope that, and we expect that sometime you'll be in teaching the students
Yes, absolutely.
to do these things and to help them so that they can further their careers. That's a key component of UNLV TV. Not only do we want to get a message across about the university, but we want to train and help our students have a quality experience at the university. I want to thank you for coming in. We expect great things from you, and as well as other staff members. We have another staff member who has been hired this year in UNLV TV, and we expect to have her on. I want to thank the audience for watching another edition of the Urban Report, and thank you very much for your time and your attention to the Urban Report. We'll see you again shortly.